Hello and welcome along to another DARD Online Services help video. In this video we're going to take a look at how you can complete your EFA declaration. In this example, the business has logged on to their DARD Online Services account. They have selected the schemes they wish to apply for, answered the questions related to those schemes, and updated their land details section. It's important that the land details section is updated and correct before you begin your EFA declaration, because the EFA requirements are based on the information included in your land details section. Any changes to these details may change your EFA requirements. Once the land details section is complete and correct, the application will check the information and let you know if there is an EFA requirement that needs to be declared. We can find this out by scrolling down our page, and we can see in the EFA section that based on the information declared in the field datasheet, there is a requirement to have ecological focus areas. The application will let you know what the total of this area must be, and in this example the area required is 3.37 hectares. Currently on the EFA declaration form there are 0.44 hectares declared. This means that as it stands, this business is not meeting the requirement for their EFA needs. And you should always try to declare more than the minimum 5% EFA requirement, just in case some of the EFAs you declare are deemed ineligible upon future inspection. So in order to update our EFA data, we're going to choose the EFA Data tab from the application and complete the EFA declaration form. Okay, so now we'll click the EFA Data tab to complete our EFA declaration. So once I click on the tab, the information on the page changes slightly. At the top of the page we can see where we can update or make our changes to our EFA, and below that is our current EFA declaration table. The information on this table will be based upon any of the EFA areas that were declared during the 2015 declaration process. So if you have to make any updates or changes or amendments to this table, you can do this using the new online mapping service. Okay, so now we're going to make a modification to our map, and you've got the opportunity to either add, change or remove either a linear or a non-linear feature. So in this first example we're going to take a look at adding an EFA linear feature, such as a hedge or a dry stone wall. To do that, we ensure that the Add an EFA linear feature has been selected, and we'll click the Start button to open up the mapping application. And the first step of this process is to find the field that we wish to make the modification to. So we choose Search Field, and we can put in our field ID. We'll search for that field, and the map immediately brings us to the field in question, so we can see the field has now been selected, and if there are any existing EFA areas indicated in the field, and we can see here the dry stone wall, they'll also be indicated on the map. In this example I'm planning to add my hedgerow across the bottom, and also the hedgerow from here up to the end of this particular hedge. If this hedge continued all the way to the top of the field, of course I would have drawn my line to the top of the field, or if there was a gate or a gap in the hedge, it's important to make sure I stop the hedge, or I stop my line where the gap begins. I then save this piece of hedge, and then I add a second linear feature to the field beginning at the other edge of the gap right up until the corner of the field, or the next gap. So we have two pieces of hedges to add, and it is important to note that because this hedge here will be beside the road, I'll be claiming this hedge at 100%, but as this hedgerow here will be shared with the neighbouring field, I'll be claiming this hedge at 50%. So because of this reason, we must indicate both these hedges are added as separate entities and not as one single piece of hedgerow. So to do that, we'll first highlight our field by clicking the select icon. Clicking on the field, we see a dot appears on the field where it is indicated in the mapping system our field is selected, and we'll choose Next. We're now going to add our type of feature, so I'm going to choose Hedge for my option. Click Next, and the first piece of hedge we'll draw is the hedge that shares the boundary with the road. So I'll click my drawing tool, I'll take my mouse and begin at this edge of the field, click once and draw the line all the way to the other corner, double click to finish drawing my line, and we can see the line has been drawn. We can now click next, and the application will do the calculations for me to ensure the line is appropriate and work out the appropriate dimensions. There are various instructions about what is eligible and how you can make your claims on screen, so please feel free to read these if appropriate. But in my case, I know this is correct, so I'll choose next to confirm the edit. And we now have our new linear feature added to this field. Now we do want to add another section of hedge from the corner up until the point where the gate or the gap in the hedge appears, and to do that we're going to add a further linear feature. So we'll repeat the process. I will choose hedges as my linear type, click next, click on the drawing tool, and I can now start in the corner of the field, and I can draw my hedge up to where the gate appears, and I can double click and I can see now my line has been drawn. I'll choose next. In the mapping system we'll create all the appropriate calculations. Again, I get the information about the regulations around claiming our linear EFA features. I will click next to confirm that the edit is correct, and I'll get confirmation that the edit has been made. So as you can see, I've now added two new linear feature pieces onto my field. So I'm finished with my edits. I can close my mapping application, and I'm returned to the EFA data table. And on the data table I'll now find for field number 5 there are two new hedges. One hedge is my 104 metres across the bottom, which is a boundary with the road, and the other hedge, my 73 metres, is shared with a neighbouring field. So I'm going to declare the full length of these hedges, so my 104, but because this one has been shared with the road, I'll be declaring this hedge at 100%. I do get a warning to remind me that if I am declaring it 100%, I must be assured that the hedge is fully under my control. Unlike the other field, or the other hedge, sorry, which I'll record my 73 metres, but in this case, as it's a shared hedge, I'll be declaring this one at 50%. So with the modifications made, I'll save my changes, and that updates my EFA data sheet, and these new EFA areas are now counting towards my EFA declaration. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at adding an area EFA feature. So from my I want to list, I've chosen add an area EFA feature, and we'll click the start button to open up the mapping application. First we have to search for the field we're going to apply this to, so we can enter in our field ID and search for the field, and the mapping application finds the field for us. As we can see, here's our field boundary, and in this example I'm going to declare the entire area of this field as fallow for my EFA declaration. And if I did have any linear EFA features to declare in this field, I would have to make sure I make the appropriate adjustments to my area feature, in this case my fallow, and they must be reduced in accordance to the EFA guidelines. So first we'll select our field to make sure we have our field selected. Click the selection tool, click in the middle of the field, the little dot appears and we have our field selected. Click next. And now we must choose the type of non-linear or the type of area feature we're going to record, and in this case it's going to be an area of fallow. So we'll choose fallow from our drop down list, click next, and now we have to draw in the area of fallow we're planning to declare. So I'll click on the area drawing tool and take my mouse and carefully, starting at a corner, we'll click and we'll draw a line around our field. And if you want to change direction, you click the mouse once. It allows you to change direction. Click the mouse once. Click the mouse once. Oh, to go back and do that again. Click the mouse once. And again click. And to the corner, click. And up to this little kink in the hedge, we'll go click. Oh, we'll just try that again. Click. Click. And once we get to the end, double click. And that, you can see, completes the area for us. So the area has been drawn in. I'll now click next, and the mapping application will do all of the calculations for us. So it works out the appropriate area, and here we can see our area in meters squared. And again, there's various guidelines and rules associated to declaring these areas, and feel free to read the information on screen. But in this example, I'm content the information is correct, and I'll click next to confirm the edit. So it takes a few moments, and you can see now on your mapping application that this entire area of the field has now been declared as fallow for my EFA declaration. If I had any additional features to add, I could create a new feature, or if I had any further changes to make on additional fields, I could choose further changes. But in this example, I'm content I'm finished the edits, so I'll choose Finish Edits, and then I can close the mapping application. This now brings me back into my EFA data table, and I can see on my field, will I just scroll down here, on my field 15, we can see there's now F1, a new area of fallow has been added, and this is the area calculated by the application. I wish to declare this area for my EFA, so I can enter in the 12659, and we can see I'll press enter and the application will just round it up for us as appropriate. We're declaring 100% of this fallow area, and I'm going to change or save my changes, and we can see our changes have been successfully saved. And I can check my EFA summary, and we can see now that this business required 0.91 hectares and the full declaration is now 0.78. So if there were no additional changes to be made to the field data, this particular business is now comfortably complying with our EFA regulations. Okay, and the next option we're going to look at is changing an EFA linear feature. So by changing a feature, we're going to modify an existing hedge or shock that's already been labelled on one of our fields, and we're going to do that by clicking the Start button, by opening up the application, by searching for the field that we wish to change. We'll put in our field ID, we'll click Search, and there's the field appearing on the screen. So we're going to take a look at this field, and we can see there are already one linear feature there, a hedge. There's a second linear feature here, the dry stone wall, and our third linear feature that we've added earlier on in our video. Now the modification we're going to make is we're going to extend this hedge from here down to here. So we'll first of all select our field, make sure our field is selected. Okay, we click Next. Then we must select the feature we wish to change. So we will click on our select option, we'll point at the hedge and we'll click on the hedge, and again we have it successfully selected. We'll click Next, and now we'll get the opportunity to make the modification. If we were changing the type of feature, we could change the type, but in this case it is still a hedge, so we're not going to adjust the type, but what we are going to change is the line that represents the hedge on the map. So I'll click Adjust Line, and I now can see the various points that are currently being used to define this line on the hedge, in the field, and we're going to extend the hedge further down here until it meets up with my area of fallow. So to do that, I will point to the dot at the end of the hedge, and I'll simply drag it down to here and let go. And with the change made, I'll click Next, and the system will do all of the appropriate calculations for me, and as you can see, it's extended the hedge further down, and it's giving me a new measurement of 184.27 meters. So if I'm content that change is correct, I'll click Next to confirm the edit, and now the field gets modified and the hedge has now been extended down as required. So if we have any additional edits to make, we can choose the change features or further changes options, but in this case I'm finished editing this field, so I'll choose Finish Edits, and I'll close the mapping application and return to the EFA declaration table. So if I check my EFA declaration table, I can now see H1, my hedge in field 5, which was being declared as 137 meters long, has now been modified. It's now 184 meters long, so I can change my declaration, and rather than typing in 137, I can change that now to 184. I'll save the changes, and the saves were changed successfully, and my total EFA declaration again has changed slightly to reflect the new hedgerow. Now we're going to take a look at another feature in our EFA declaration system. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at removing an EFA linear feature from your declaration. So to do that, we'll change the I want to option to remove an EFA linear feature and click the Start button, and that opens up our mapping application. And again, the first step is to find the field that contains the feature we wish to remove. So we'll just pop in our field ID number, click search, and there's the field on the screen. Now in this particular example, what I'm going to show you is that this field here, we'll say, is going to merge with field number 5. And this particular hedge, which was once part of field number 2, has been removed, and of course all of the appropriate authorizations has been granted by DARD to allow this to happen. So as this hedge has now been removed, we have to remove it from our EFA declaration. So in order to remove this portion of hedge, we first will choose our field select button and make sure we click in the field that contains the feature. It's now been selected. We'll then choose next. We'll choose our feature select button by clicking the little select tool and point to the hedge we're planning to remove from this declaration. It's been successfully selected. We'll choose next, and we'll get a little reminder telling us exactly what we're planning to remove. This is feature H1, it's a hedge, and that was the length of the hedge. So if I'm content that this has to be removed from the declaration, I'll choose the remove button, and the system then will update it appropriately. If I had any additional changes to make, I could make some more changes, but in this case I am happy finishing the edits. And when the edits are finished, I can click my close window and I can see on my EFA datasheet for field 2, edge or H1 has been removed from the declaration. Okay, now the next feature we're going to take a look at is removing an area EFA feature. So we're going to remove an area that's already present or recorded in one of our fields we're wishing to declare. So we'll open our mapping application, and as usual we will search for our field and we'll put in our field number, and here we can see our field that we're going to remove the area from. So we must first make sure the field itself has been selected by clicking the select tool and clicking on the field, and we can have our field selected successfully. We click next, and now we must select the area that we wish to remove from this field. Now in this case it's just one single area which covers the entire field, so we'll choose our selection tool, we'll click anywhere in the area, and our area has now been selected. We click next, and we're now being told the details of the area that we've just selected. So it's an area of fallow covering the whole field. That's fine. So if I'm content this is to be removed from the field, I'll choose the remove option, and we can see now on the field the area has been taken out. If I have no additional edits to make, I can click finish edits and return to my EFA declaration table. Now once we get back to the EFA declaration table, I can see the table has been updated. So in field 5 there's no longer an area feature or a fallow feature present. So we'll just save those changes, and of course once I now check my total declaration, we can see the EFA declaration has decreased considerably, representing the fact that the fallow was no longer present in that field. Thanks for watching this video. Hopefully you have found it useful. If you do have any questions about EFA declarations or any other part of the single application process, please feel free to contact the advisory team whose details are shown at the end of this video.